Hi, and welcome everybody to another edition of the Winner Circle Sports Betting Podcast. It's Thursday, April the 6th, and like every Thursday, I'm joined by that handsome fellow on the other side of me. I should say that red handsome fellow on the other side of me, the Sun Devil from the state of Arizona, where the sun is getting real hot, and this guy's even hotter, Mr. Doug Upstone from DougStockSports.com.
Hey, Ross, I'm doing well, thank you. And you know what? Now, we haven't talked about this in a long time. The last thing it's been here is red hot. Now,
Okay.
today's like the first day. It's going to be 80 today. It's normally 83. The other day it was 63 for the high. That was crazy. But we're going to get some 90s coming our way. So, yes, things are improving finally around here for that. But it's been a weird year. Coldest winter they said like in 40 years.
Really?
Or something,
Wow.
something like yeah.
We had one of the warmest winters and mildest
Okay.
winters we've had in years in Western New York. But again, you can't compare the two.
No, it's a different deal.
Well, you were in Chicago for many, or the Chicago area.
Milwaukee, around
Yeah.
Chicago, yes.
Yeah,
So very familiar with summer starting on the 4th of July. Yes.
Yeah, it's like 55 degrees here today, and everybody's out there with shorts on. And it
Oh,
was
yeah.
71 earlier in the week. But the day it turned, here's the difference, Doug. We had a high of 71 on Monday. You know what the low was that night? 22 degrees. So
there you go.
There you gotta love it. You just have to love it. Anyway, Doug, we're talking Major League Baseball today. You're going to be covering the Milwaukee and St. Louis game, which I'm real interested to hear your take on that because I was looking at that game. It's a real intriguing matchup. Nice pitching matchup as well. And I'm going to be looking at the San Diego Padres and the Atlanta Braves. But, before we get to that, and those free picks will go on Friday, April 7th, folks. So we are taping 24 hours in advance. And please keep that in mind because depending on when you view the video, these lines are subject to change. We always grade them at the time that we do the video. Okay. But by the same token, sometimes that works for us and sometimes it works against us. Hey, me and Doug did an NBA video the other day. I had Dallas -4. They went way up to 6.5. Everybody was betting the Clippers like they were stealing. Well, if you got in on the line move, you won, but I got a push. So that perfect example. And we both have been on the other side of releasing a game early because that's what we do on this channel and being left vulnerable to the line movement within the next 24 hours. It is what it is. It all evens out at the end, even though Doug will tell you it won't. But any event, Doug, some rule changes in Major League Baseball to start the year. And I'm not sure everybody is fully abreast of what's going on in that regard. And it doesn't have any effect whatsoever on handicapping. And if not, well, what's your thoughts thus far and what you witnessed? Because you've been at spring training and I know you're an avid baseball guy. So share that with the audience, please.
Sure. Well, the first thing, of course, that everybody notices right away is the pace of the game. Okay. I mean, it's much faster. Pitchers with nobody on base have to pitch within 15 seconds. The batter has to be ready and looking at the pitcher with 8 seconds to go. Otherwise, in either case, there could be a ball or a strike called in that situation. And with runners on base, it's 20 seconds. Okay, so that's the basics of it. And the thing I've noticed, besides the speed of the game has definitely increased, and I think it's for the better, by the way. Along with that, though, I've noticed it, and it was a good example today. Lance Lynn of the pitch for the White Sox today, and he was throwing meatballs to San Francisco batters. That was nothing. He was just throwing it. He couldn't find the plate. He was awful. But in the past, okay, always a guy, if he's struggling, he's tried to slow it down, take his time, see if he can find a rhythm by slowing down and stuff like that. Well, those days are over. So if you don't have your best stuff, you're going to have to just find it. And if you don't find it, you're probably out by the 3rd or 4th inning. So that's one big difference. Now, there's no way to know that immediately, but if you're doing in-game betting, okay, that does present some different opportunities for you on a variety of ways, whether it be looking at runs scored in an inning or, different things like that, or guys hits or home runs. I mean, there's all kinds of possibilities there. So that's one thing I've noticed. The other thing, obviously, is, excuse me, stealing is way up. Okay, the percentage of stolen bases, which means the runners are moving more. Okay, and that will be, I think, a really interesting thing to follow going forward. Not so much at the moment, because the one thing I feel, Ross, and tell me if you disagree here on this, is that anytime when there's something changes in any sport, odds makers are pretty quick to adjust totals. They might be a little slow on some other aspects because of what their numbers show, but totals, if all of a sudden there's more runs being scored, totals will go up. When we went through the last period, when runs were coming down, okay, they came down quickly. So from a pure handicapping or sports betting perspective, I'm not sure that has a whole lot to do with it. Go ahead, share your thoughts.
Yeah, all good points, Doug. I mean, again, I can't imagine the pitch clock favors the pitcher and not the hitter. Because as you just alluded to, a perfect example, and that's one of many, where a pitcher, if he's struggling, could slow the game down a little bit and regain his composure. You're not going to be able to do that with a 15-second clock, with nobody on, a 20-second clock with men on base. Secondly, why is stolen bases going up? I think it's a no-brainer. I think they know that these base runners now, the good ones especially, and the ones with a lot of speed, know that if they start approaching the shot clock of 20 seconds, they're going to get a big jump, Doug, because now they know what the pitcher before could look, go back, wait, and make sure that his move to first base isn't exactly timed the way it was the time before, for lack of a better phrase. And right now, you start approaching the 20-second pitch clock, the base runner knows he's got to come here, or he's got to go to plate within the next 2 seconds. So again, that's got to favor base runners. And to me, the pitch clock also favors more offense. And I did see a note on one of the Fox broadcasts over the weekend, national game. I think it was the Yankees game, where up until that point, and we were only about 4 games in when I saw this graphic, is the average time of games last year were 3 hours and 13 minutes and change. Up until that point, when they showed that graphic over the weekend, games were averaging a little over 2.5 hours. So to me, that's a good thing. You know what I mean? It's if anything, it's adding offense and more runs to the game for exactly the reasons I just said. That's my opinion and nobody else's. Maybe somebody would agree with me, but I'm interested to hear your thoughts in that regard. And, the biggest complaint about baseball was always we're losing the fans because the games go way too long. So, again, Doug, I think it's in everybody's best interest. I know the pitchers aren't thrilled with this. The batters, again, they'll make the adjustment. They'll make the adjustment. They got to get in the box. And let's play baseball, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Those numbers have held up. In fact, the other day, Miami and Minnesota with Alcantara pitching, it was 1-0. That game was an hour 53.
There you go. There you go.
So that's going back years ago. That's Randy Jones territory in terms of how he used to pitch for that standpoint. So that's been a big difference. The stolen base thing is interesting. And like I said, I think that's going to play out. And I think what you'll see happen, and this is conjecture on my part, but they're going to have to try and figure some way to combat it. And part of what the base runners are doing is that they're also taking, especially like you said, good ones, they're taking even bigger leads because they want to get those 2 throws over to first base so that they know they can't throw there again, no matter what. Okay.
The other advantage, right? That's another great rule. They're trying. They've done that. So one thing I'm thinking, or 2 things I'm thinking of, is I guess to borrow from Johnny Cueto or guys like that, is vary your pitch time delivery. Okay, and now so many pitchers are also wearing the thing where so they know fastball, curveball, whatever from the catcher in terms of what's being chosen, is that you could call 2 pitches at once. Okay, if you wanted to. So if you know a batter, if you know your first pitch, you want to set them up going outside and low. The next pitch, you want to then come right back and go up and inside. And whatever the 2 pitches happen to be that you want to call to do that, call them back to back. Yeah.
Okay. And so you get the ball right back. The runner starts to take all of a sudden you're set. You're throwing the ball with 10 seconds to the plate. A guy can't get a head start on
No.
that.
No.
Okay. From that standpoint.
Yeah.
So that's just, it's, to me, that's one way, but they're definitely going to come up with stuff to combat it.
But that's a good point, Doug, because like I said, I mean, as you get closer to the 20-second count, the base runner knows it's an advantageous position for him because they're going to either expect to throw in the last couple seconds or they're going to get a good jump. Now, if you start, like you said, timing your deliveries better and calling 2 pitches at a time, all of a sudden you're not up against that shot clock every time. And it takes away a little bit of the advantage of the runner. And, the other thing that they implemented, I think it was last year or 2 years ago, I'm sorry, and Doug would know this more than I would, is when you bring in a relief pitcher, he has to face a minimum 3 batters. So before, these guys are making changes, going right, left, every other batter, and slowing the game down to a crawl. So, I'm all for all these rules. And to me, the overall outlook for me is it's going to improve scoring and improve excitement in the game. And not only that, quicken the game, which has been the big criticism of Major League Baseball over the last few years, and rightfully so, Doug.
Absolutely. No, I mean, I mentioned a 1-0 game. I mean, I can think of, any number of games that were either 1-0 or 2-1 that lasted 3 hours. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, I don't, unless you're literally walking, so many different batters that they're getting on base and you're, in jams continually, stuff like that. I guess you could make that case, but I don't think you'll ever, those days are gone now, which is a good thing. So I'm all like with you, Ross, I'm 100% behind every single one of these rule changes. Yeah. Well, there's still going to be modifications. They might go to eventually, instead of having it be 15 and 20, they might go to 20 and 25, maybe it's just a little bit too quick in some cases, maybe not. I mean, I don't know what the right answer is yet, but they'll work with the players in order to get the feedback also on that. So yeah, I'm in favor of it and everything. Hey, you know what? If there's more stolen bases, guys are going around the bases more and everything else, that's great. And Ross, I know you love this as much as I do. The single is back. Okay.
Yeah.
With the shift being gone, we're getting more balls that are getting through. Guys are getting base hits, batting averages. Yeah, it's really early, but a lot of batting averages are higher than what they've been. I believe it's running around 15%. 15 points higher to this point of the season than a year ago, and that's all good as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely. And again, you can't, when it comes to starting pitchers or even relief pitchers now with a pitch clock, I can't help but think that some of these guys are going to be affected above the neck, not physically, above the neck, because they have that, they got to get that pitch off. And they, guys are creatures of habit in the major leagues a lot of times, especially pitchers. They've worked out their routine and they know how they're comfortable pitching. And a guy who liked to work slow in the past, now it's going to be hurried. And how does he handle that? And will it affect him mentally? I mean, will it affect his control because he has to speed up? It's a thing that you want to keep an eye on, especially after we see 3 or 4 starts from each starting pitcher for the most part. Then we can compare the numbers, right, Doug? I mean, some guys are notoriously slow starters in April and others aren't. So you have to throw that out the window. But you may see a noticeable difference in some guys' ERA compared to where they were last year or the year before, and directly attribute that to the uncomfortability of having to pitch with a pitch clock. But we'll see. And also, holding base runners on. Like you said, you can only throw over twice. How many times have we sat there and you hear fans booing when a guy throws over 7, 8 different times in a row before he goes to the plate for a guy who's a potential base stealer? And a lot of times he's not even doing it to keep the runner close or try to pick him off. It's almost like he's trying to take a little bit of a rest himself, So we'll see, Doug. It's all good stuff. As always, you come up with a great topic and it prompts some pretty good discussion. And folks, those of you watching out there, and God bless all you subscribers out there. We really, really appreciate you. Getting close to 9,300 subscribers now, over 300 in the last couple of weeks alone. And without you, this station doesn't survive. So we really appreciate it. But we're interested in hearing your feedback, okay, on these particular topic matters. Even if you disagree with us on a pick, that's okay. Like I said, folks, I'm all for you giving us feedback, even if it's suggestions, but I have no tolerance when somebody gets into name calling and is disrespectful to either one of my handicappers, myself, or a fellow subscriber. And when I say disrespectful, it's not disagreeing with the game, disagreeing with a philosophy. It's getting into the name calling. You guys are 80 years old. You don't know what you're talking about, whatever. Like I said on a prior podcast, Doug, if they're making fun of our age, I'll challenge them to put a picture up of themselves. How's that? So we look pretty good.
I think we've talked about this one thing before. I rest assured, okay, yep. Anybody that's watching, if I'm 80 and if I'm still around here, I won't be on here on YouTube. Guaranteed. I promise you. Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry. So I'm younger than 80, and that will be the proof right there.
Yeah. The thing is, we work really hard, right? But we're not digging ditches. So we're not putting wear and tear on our body. Our minds are another situation. Balancing our professional life with our family life is another challenge. But we're not putting physical wear and tear on our body. And as long as we're sharp in mind, who cares how old we are? As long as we're sharp in our philosophies and we continue to win like we have on this channel, who cares how old you are? Would you rather have an old guy that mispronounces a word once in a while but wins on a continual basis, or listen to these clowns on ESPN and all these other gambling shows on some of these networks that the only reason why they're doing what they're doing is because they have a college education and they can't find a broadcasting job anywhere else. So, hey, if you want a job, I got an opening to talk about sports gambling. What do you think they're going to say? They're going to do it and act like they know what they're talking about. And 90% of them don't. Anyway, let's go and move on. Now that there's my rant for today. Doug.
All right.
St. Louis and Milwaukee.
You got your pulse on for your heart rate?
Yeah, it don't matter, man. You know, it'll be slow as a crawl in another couple minutes. So
yeah, let's talk Milwaukee and St. Louis. Now, this excuse me, start to get into the interesting part of also the changes in baseball is the schedule reduction of division games. So now in the past, I don't even remember how many years, the teams played 19 games. Well, now it's down to 13. So when Milwaukee, and in this case, Milwaukee and St. Louis are playing each other, the games to me take on even an added importance, even though it's only April. Now, this game is going to be played at Miller Park to start with, and these are supposed to be the two best teams in the division coming into the season. St. Louis first, Milwaukee second, certainly by the odds. But the Brewers have come out flying, Ross. 5-1 start, okay? Their offense has been super potent, and their pitching exceptional. Brewers are scoring 6.3 runs per game, okay? With an on-base percentage of .371, which is third in baseball. And their pitching has only allowed 2.7 runs per game. So they have been phenomenal right out of the gate. Now, St. Louis has stumbled. They're only 2-4, and all 6 of those games were played at home at Busch Stadium. Now, let's say if you want to give an excuse of sorts, okay, they played Toronto and Atlanta, 2 expected playoff teams, and 2 of them that literally could be playing for either the American or National League championships, okay, later in October. But the Cardinals' offense, Ross, has still been good. Their on-base percentage is actually the best in baseball at .380. But the one difference between Milwaukee and St. Louis has been clutch hits. Now, there's nothing wrong with scoring 4.8 runs per game like St. Louis is doing, but that's a run and a half less than what the Brewers have done to this point. And then with a problem for the Cardinals, pitching, specifically the starting pitching. They got an ERA so far this season. Granted, it's 6 games. Not going to play too much into it, but the facts are the facts at this point. Their ERA is up over 5. Now, the scheduled starting pitchers for this game are Jack Flaherty for the Cards, Brandon Woodruff for the Brew Crew. Both had excellent first starts, but Flaherty has an ERA over 5 against Milwaukee in 15 starts. Woodruff, I believe he has 11 starts against the Redbirds. His ERA is only 2.70. So I'm going to look at current performance of both teams right now, and also the fact that the Cardinals, dating back to last year, Ross, 2-9 on the road after playing 6 or more straight home games. I'm going to say take the Brew Crew minus the 140 to get the job done in the series opener on Friday night.
And I agree with you 120%. Okay, not 100, 120. Anyway, okay. You look. Not only you mentioned their offensive numbers, Milwaukee. Would you say over 6 runs a game so far to start the season? Well, neither of these teams are playing today. Now, remember, folks, we're taping 24 hours in advance, so both of these teams have an off day today, and our picks are for tomorrow. So heading into tomorrow, Milwaukee's on a 5-game win streak. They lost their opener in which they were shut out. And then they've reeled off 5 wins in a row. And during that 5-game winning streak, 7.6 runs per game. So even better than their season average. And the Cardinals, by the way, they've dropped their last 3. Now, Flaherty, you mentioned him. 6 starts at Milwaukee since 2019, a 7.92 ERA and a 1.92 whip. Folks, that's absolutely brutal. And be quite honest with you, with the 1.92 whip, he's lucky that ERA is even 7.92 because most times than not, that correlates to a higher ERA than even that. Brandon Woodruff, 4 home starts against St. Louis since 2021. How about an 0.79 ERA and an 0.65 whip in those 4 starts? So Doug touched upon it. I'm just adding fuel to the fire. This seems to be a starting pitching mismatch. Not because of their career numbers, that Woodruff has been so much better than Flaherty, more so than the home and away splits, right? And so in St. Louis, by the way, Doug touched upon it, timely hits. You're talking about a team not only with a 380-something on-base percentage, but also they're hitting 324 as a team, and they're averaging less than 5 runs a game. Now, like he said, 4.8 runs a game, you'll take that, and you're going to win on most occasions putting up those kind of numbers. But when you're hitting 340, 324 as a team since the beginning of the season, which is a 6-game span, you have to really maximize your offensive potential if you're going to hit that well. And they haven't, in my opinion. And like you couple that with the fact that they haven't pitched well. And Milwaukee's bullpen has been terrific to start the year, Doug. So, yeah, I mean, I think that I just endorsed your pick. So
it sounds like it to me. If I had to guess, that's an opinion. But so, it sounds like it.
Mr. Upstone, red hot Mr. Upstone, by the way, and he's going to tell you how red hot he's been in a little bit. But he likes the Milwaukee Brewers at home on Friday evening, minus 140 over St. Louis. And again, folks, I would suggest if you can get down on this game as early as possible, you do, because I personally feel that this game is going to go into the 150 and 160 range. That's just my educated guess. I may be incorrect. Either way, I like this to be a winning pick that Doug just gave us. So in any event, San Diego, they're going to be taking on Atlanta tomorrow. And right now, Nick Martinez is listed as a starting pitcher for San Diego in a TBD, which is to be determined for Atlanta. So not sure what's going on with the pitching match, the pitching situation for the Braves. That game goes at 7:20 Eastern time. As of this recording, all they're listing right now is a total of 8.5. So that's what I'm going to focus on. And heading into Thursday, the Padres have hit 9 home runs in 6 games. No surprise there, but, when you're averaging 1.5 home runs per game, that's pretty darn good. And you equate that to a 162-game schedule, that add up to somewhere around 240 home runs at the end of the year, which equates to a pretty damn good record, unless your pitching's brutal. Nick Martinez has made 1 career start versus Atlanta. That came last year. And he allowed 4 earned runs and 7 hits, and also gave up 3 home runs in that contest and only 5 innings pitched. So there you go. You have a San Diego team with Nick Martinez playing an Atlanta team that we know. I just talked about San Diego's power. Atlanta is fully capable of playing long ball, especially at home. San Diego right now, these teams met 3 times at Atlanta last year. All 3 of those games went over the total with a combined average of 12.7 runs scored per game. And the Padres bullpen is really struggled to start the year, Doug. 5.95 ERA, 5 home runs allowed in 19 2/3 innings pitched. And again, Atlanta is a power-laden lineup as well. So I'd like this game to go over 8.5, Doug. I think we'll some of these rule changes in the pitching and the bullpens and power on both sides. I like this game to go over 8.5. So it's San Diego, Atlanta over 8.5. Doug Upstone likes Milwaukee -140 over St. Louis. Any thoughts on the San Diego Atlanta game, Doug?
Boy, you know what? You were dead on the San Diego bullpen. And the thing that I've seen them play. I've seen their bullpen pitch twice. And the thing that I've noticed is they got a bunch of guys that are basically sinker ball pitchers that throw relatively hard, but they don't throw real hard. And I think that could be a problem for them in middle relief, because, you want some power arms, then you want a mixture. Okay. And if they are off, as you know, you played baseball, and stuff. If you don't have your control, you have a tendency to leave the ball up. Well, if you're leaving the ball up in today's world, okay, it's there's going to be some base hits. Some of those might go over the wall. And for example, they played Arizona the other day with a 5-1 lead, and they gave up 7 runs. Ends up the bullpen did, and I had that game on, and it was one guy after another they kept bringing in who just didn't throw hard. Okay, yeah. I mean, like I said, low 90 sinker, and they kept leaving the ball up. They couldn't place it properly. Now, chances are, based on they're on the team for a reason, they'll get into a groove, as things go along, and their pitches will be more effective. But the fact of the matter is that they were not at all. And I would agree, they could struggle again. Like you said, both teams have power. The 8 seems like a pretty reasonable number to go over based on what we know at this time, Ross.
Yeah, it's 8.5 actually, but
8.5.
Yes,
okay,
yes, but it's still 8.5. You still got to get to 9, right? So, I like the over, and it sounds like Doug is leaning that direction too. And you make a good point about sinker ball pitchers. You do want, I would say, you want 3/4 of your bullpen to be the power arms. You do. Middle relief, no, because middle relief is more guys that just barely miss being in the rotation, mop up guys and stuff of that nature. But in tight games, if you're depending on the majority of your high use relief pitchers to be sinker ball pitchers, you're pitching to contact. Okay.
Right.
And you, no matter what, I mean, a sinker ball pitcher can be on. But if he's not throwing in the high 90s as a sinker ball pitcher, you're throwing to contact. Major League Baseball hitters will catch up to you eventually, and sometimes you're going to be get out of a lot of innings by inducing a double play ground ball. Other times they're going to hit them where you ain't, for lack of a better phrase. So all good stuff, Doug. Tell the folks about Doug at DocSports.com, what you may have coming up this weekend, buddy, and how hot you been.
We talked the other day about the college basketball, but that's in the rearview mirror now. So yeah. That's all good. But right now, going into more recently, 25-15 the last 2 weeks across the board. In terms of Doc's units, that's $3,700 worth of profit. In terms of winning days, 26 out of the last 42. That's 62%. From that standpoint, and that adds up to almost $6,000 worth of profit. So, and that covers the whole gamut. Okay, from that standpoint, all the sports. So there's been a lot of good things that have gone on. As I mentioned on Thursday, hockey hasn't been that good to me of late, but overtime has a lot to do with that. So got to get that turned around. And with the Stanley Cup coming, okay, I'm really fired up for that to get going. So this weekend, mostly the focus is going to be on baseball. Okay. The NBA, to me, the last couple of days of the season with the lines the way they are, you don't know who's going to be playing. If I have one pick a day, that will be the most I'll have. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna just flat out tell you I'll be light on that. But I will have I again, not everybody's fired up about this, but XFL, I got a play ready to go. I've hit 4 of the last 5 weeks, and there is a number of the Kentucky Derby prep races that are this weekend. There's 3 of them, 3 big ones, in fact. And so I will have selections on each and every one of those. So a little bit different approach this week, but something that I believe in strongly. And I think there's money to be made. And that's exactly based on how I've been doing, how I think what's going to happen this weekend, Ross.
So you horse racing fans out there, we're not going to dedicate a whole show to horse racing. No. Okay, but what I will promise you is I'm going to corner Doug into giving us a couple picks here and there on these prep races. All right, a couple free picks because he's doing it on his channel already, which takes me to this. Don't forget, if you go to DocSports.com and their YouTube channel, you'll find Doug does 6 days a week. He does a daily video, and he keeps it short and sweet, 5 to 6 minutes. He's on by himself. He'll bring you up to speed on how he's been doing of late, and then give you a free pick. And also he has a segment at the end called West Coast Wise Guys, where he's been in contact with these gentlemen for many years, and he gives us a free pick from the West Coast Wise Guys as well. So you want to check that out too. If you like Doug on these videos, you're certainly going to like him on his own. So folks, just that much more when it comes to sports betting in your arsenal when you can listen to us daily. Okay. So yeah, you can find me at rbwins.com, rbwins.com. I got a couple NBA totals up for Thursday evening. And again, we're taping on Thursday. Our picks are on Friday. But if in case you see this in time, my basketball totals, college basketball, NBA totals combined 64 and 43 since last April the 17th. That's good for 60%. And dime bettors during that course of time up $16,830. All sports been solid. You know, I want to be better, but 37 and 28 over my last 65, 57%. NBA 10-star top plays. I don't give out 10-star top plays every day. And I never give out more than one in an individual sport. I shouldn't say never. Probably 364 out of 365 days, I don't do that. There's a lot of days I don't even give out a 10-star top play. But my NBA 10-star top plays, 26 and 14, 65% with my last 40. Major League Baseball 10-star top plays. And folks, this goes all the way back to 2011, 334 and 278. With my last 612 Major League Baseball 10-star top plays. Dime bettors, if you've been with me that long, you're up over $40,000 with those plays. And Major League Baseball right now, dating back to last year and going into this year, had a nice winner last night. Only my second pick in Major League Baseball this season. I had the Toronto Blue Jays on the run line at minus 110. And they come up with a 3-0 win at Kansas City with Alek Manoah pitching a gem. So that now makes me, dating back to last season, 13 and 2 with my Major League Baseball money line and run line picks combined. So a lot of good stuff. rbwins.com, docsports.com to find Doug Upstone. For Doug Upstone and Ross Benjamin, we'd like to wish each and every one of you all the very best. Take care and God bless, folks.